I caught my husband in bed with my twin sister. But that's not even the craziest part of my story. Yeah, you heard that right. My twin. The person who shared a womb with me for 9 months decided sharing my husband was fair game too. And before you ask, no, I never saw it coming. Not until the universe literally made me say her name instead of his. Let me back up. My name is Tiffany, I'm 30 years old, and up until 6 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I was living in Boston with my husband Marcus and our 3-year-old son, Jayden. Marcus was the kind of man your mama warns you about, but you don't listen because he's got that smile, you know? That smile that makes you forget he's been controlling every aspect of your life since you said, I do. I used to model. Well, I used to want to model. Back when I was 22, I had agencies calling me, telling me I had the look. Slim build, striking features, straight black hair that photographers loved. I was this close to signing with a major agency in New York. But then I met Marcus at my cousin's barbecue, and 6 months later, we were married. He said modeling was too risky, too many creeps in that industry, too much travel. He said he wanted to take care of me, build a family, keep me safe. So, I let my dream die. I watched it shrivel up like a plant nobody waters. Instead, I became a cashier at Stop and Shop on Boylston Street, scanning groceries, asking people if they found everything okay, coming home smelling like the deli counter. Marcus worked in sales, or at least that's what he told me. Looking back now, I'm not even sure what was real and what was lies. My twin sister, Tanya, lived about 20 minutes away in Dorchester. We'd never been close, not really. Even as kids, there was this weird competition between us. She always wanted what I had. My toys, my clothes, my boyfriends in high school. Mama used to say it was because she was born second, like those 7 minutes made her feel like she had to catch up her whole life. After I married Marcus, Tanya got even weirder. She'd come over unannounced, always dressed up like she was going somewhere fancy. She'd touch Marcus's arm when she laughed at his jokes. She'd offer to babysit Jayden but then cancel last minute. I just thought she was being Tanya, messy, dramatic, jealous. I never thought she'd take it that far. Have you ever had someone in your life who always seemed to want what you had? Someone who couldn't just be happy for you? Drop a comment below because I need to know I'm not crazy for missing the signs. It started small. Little things that didn't make sense, but weren't big enough to fight about. Marcus started working late. Like really late. He'd come home at 11 midnight, sometimes 1 in the morning, smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. When I'd ask, he'd say he was meeting clients, closing deals, networking. He'd kiss Jayden on the forehead while our baby was sleeping and then crash on the couch, too tired to even come to bed. Then there were the phone calls. He'd step outside to take them, even in the middle of winter. I'd watch him through the window, pacing in the driveway, smiling at his phone like whoever was on the other end was the most interesting person in the world. He never smiled at me like that anymore. But the thing that really got me, the thing that made my stomach drop, he stopped touching me. Not in that way, I mean in every way. No hand on my back when we walked through the grocery store. No kiss goodbye in the morning. No pulling me close on the couch while we watched TV. It was like I'd become invisible in my own marriage. I was just the woman who took care of his son and kept his house clean. I tried to bring it up once. We were in the kitchen and I was making dinner, baked chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, his favorite. Jayden was in the living room watching Paw Patrol. Marcus, can we talk? I said, keeping my voice light, casual, like I wasn't dying inside. He didn't even look up from his phone. What's up? I feel like, I don't know, like we're not really us anymore. You're always gone, and when you're here, you're not really here. He sighed, the kind of sigh that made me feel stupid for even speaking. Tiffany, I'm working my ass off to provide for this family. I'm tired. Can you not make this a whole thing right now? And just like that, the conversation was over. He went back to his phone, and I went back to pretending everything was fine. If you were in my shoes, would you have pushed harder? Or would you have stayed quiet like I did? Let me know what you would have done, because hindsight is 20/20, right? Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were always slow at the store, and I'd gotten off early. I picked up Jayden from daycare, stopped at the park for 20 minutes so he could burn off some energy and then headed home. It was around 6:30 when we walked through the door. Marcus's car was in the driveway. That was weird. He was never home before 8 anymore. Daddy's home, Jayden squealed, dropping his little backpack and running toward the stairs. Wait, baby, let Daddy rest. I started, but he was already halfway up. I followed him, smiling, thinking maybe Marcus had taken the night off. Maybe we could have dinner together as a family for once. Maybe things were looking up. But when I reached the top of the stairs, I heard it. Laughter. A woman's laughter. Coming from our bedroom. My bedroom. My heart started pounding, so hard I thought I might pass out right there in the hallway. Jayden had already pushed the door open, and I heard Marcus's voice, sharp and panicked. Jayden, buddy, what are you? I stepped into the doorway, and there she was.
Tanya,
my twin sister, sitting on my bed, in my house, wearing one of my robes. Her hair was messy. Marcus was pulling on a t-shirt, his face red, eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. The room smelled like perfume. Her perfume, the one she always wore, that sickly sweet vanilla scent that now made me want to throw up. For a second, nobody moved. It was like time stopped. Jayden was looking between them, confused. Marcus's mouth was opening and closing like a fish. Tanya just stared at me with this expression I couldn't read. Guilt? Triumph? I still don't know. And then, before I could stop myself, before I could think, I said the words that confirmed what my gut had been screaming for months. Tanya, what the hell are you doing? But that's not what came out of my mouth. What came out was, Marcus, what the hell are you doing? No, wait. I said it wrong. Let me rewind. I was looking at Marcus. I meant to say his name. But instead I said, Tanya. I stopped. Blinked. My brain was scrambled, trying to process what I was seeing, and somehow the wires got crossed. I'd called him by her name. Because deep down, some part of me had already known. Some part of me had been seeing them as a unit, a pair, a betrayal so intertwined I couldn't separate them anymore. Marcus's face went white. Tiff, I can explain. Get out. My voice didn't sound like mine. It was cold, flat, dead. Both of you. Get out of my house. And that's when everything in my life fell apart. But also, and I know this sounds crazy, that's when everything started to make sense. Have you ever had a moment where you finally understood something you've been denying for so long? If you're relating to this story, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel because trust me, this story gets even crazier. Tanya scrambled off the bed, grabbing her clothes from my floor, and practically ran past me. She wouldn't even look at me. Marcus was stammering, saying my name over and over like it was a magic word that could fix this. Tiffany, please, just listen. I said get out. He grabbed his keys, his wallet, his phone. Jayden started crying, confused and scared by the yelling. I scooped him up, held him close, buried my face in his little neck to keep from screaming. The front door slammed. And just like that, they were gone. I stood there in my bedroom, our bedroom, staring at the unmade bed, the rumpled sheets, the evidence of their betrayal soaking into every corner of the room. My legs gave out and I sank to the floor, still holding Jayden, who was asking me why Daddy left, why I was crying, if everything was okay. Everything's okay, baby, I whispered, even though it was the biggest lie I'd ever told. Mommy's got you. Everything's gonna be okay. But here's the thing, I didn't believe it. Not even a little bit. That night, after I put Jayden to bed, I sat in the dark living room replaying every moment of the last year. Every late night. Every missed dinner. Every time Tanya showed up unannounced, and Marcus smiled just a little too wide. Every time she touched his arm and I told myself I was being paranoid, jealous, insecure. How long had this been going on? Months? A year? Longer? How many times had they been together while I was at work, scanning groceries and asking strangers if they needed help carrying their bags to their cars? How many times had they laughed about me, pitted me, called me stupid for not noticing? What would you have done in that moment? Would you have called them? Confronted them? Or would you have sat in the dark like me, trying to figure out where it all went wrong? Comment below. I really want to know, because I felt so alone that night. The divorce was ugly. Marcus didn't even try to fight for custody of Jayden. He just wanted it over fast, so he could move on with his life. With her. They moved in together 2 weeks after I kicked him out.
2 weeks.
Tanya blocked me on everything. Didn't even try to apologize. Mama called crying, asking how this happened, how her daughters could be so broken. I didn't have an answer. I worked double shifts at Stop and Shop to afford a lawyer. I cried in the employee bathroom on my breaks. I smiled at customers and bagged their groceries and pretended my entire world hadn't just imploded. And every night, I came home to Jayden, read him stories, tucked him in, and wondered how the hell I was going to survive this. But here's what I didn't know yet. Here's what I couldn't see in those dark, horrible weeks. This was just the beginning. And what came next? It changed everything. Recap and transition. So there I was. Divorced, broke, and working double shifts at Stop and Shop just to keep a roof over my head, and Jayden's. Marcus and Tanya were living their best life in Dorchester, while I was falling apart in my tiny one-bedroom apartment in Roxbury. You know what the worst part was? It wasn't even the betrayal anymore. It was the loneliness. It was coming home every night to an empty apartment. Well, empty except for Jayden, and realizing I had nobody.
Tanya
had been my only sister, my only sibling. Marcus had been my only partner.
And now?
I had nothing but a 3-year-old asking me why Daddy doesn't live with us anymore. Have you ever felt so alone that you didn't even know who to call anymore? Like everyone you thought you could trust just disappeared? Let me know in the comments, because those were the darkest days of my life. The struggle. Months 2 to 4 after divorce. The divorce was finalized in October. By November, I was drowning. The apartment in Roxbury was cheap, $200 a month, but even though I was pushing it on my cashier salary,
I
was making maybe $2,000 a month, and after rent, daycare for Jayden, groceries, utilities, and the bus pass I needed to get to work, I had maybe $200 left over. Sometimes less. I stopped buying new clothes. Hell, I stopped buying anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. I wore the same 3 work polos over and over, washed them in the sink at night because I couldn't afford the laundromat every
week.
I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches so Jayden could have real meals, chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, apple slices, all the things a 3-year-old needs. I lost weight. Not in a good way. In that, I'm barely eating and stress is killing me way. My coworker started asking if I was okay. I'd just smile and say I was fine, that I was on a diet, that everything was great. It wasn't great. Some nights, after I put Jayden to bed, I'd sit on the kitchen floor and just cry. Silent tears because I didn't want to wake him up. I'd think about the modeling agencies that used to call me, the contracts I almost signed, the life I could have had if I hadn't let Marcus convince me to give it all up. I was 30 years old, working a minimum wage job, and I felt like my life was over. If you've ever felt like you hit rock bottom and there's no way out, drop a comment. Sometimes just knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. And if this story is speaking to you, hit that like button. And subscribe. You need to hear what happens next. The whispers and the shame. Around this time, I started hearing things through the grapevine. You know how it is, Boston's a small city. When it comes to gossip, especially in the Black community, somebody always knows somebody who knows your business. I heard Marcus lost his sales job. Apparently, he'd been lying about a lot of his big deals and got fired for faking reports.
Karma, right?
But here's the thing, I didn't feel good about it. I just felt empty. Then I heard Tanya got fired from her job at the bank too. Something about attendance issues.
Turns out when
you're sneaking around with your sister's husband, you miss a lot of work. They were struggling. Just like me. Maybe worse. Part of me wanted to feel happy about it, like they were getting what they deserved.
But mostly I just felt sad.
Sad that my son's father was a failure. Sad that my twin sister threw away everything for a man who couldn't
even keep a job.
I ran into my mama at the grocery store one day, my store where I worked. She saw me in my stop and shop polo and her face just fell. She didn't say anything mean, but I could see it in her eyes. Disappointment.
Pity.
Sadness for what her daughter had become. "Tiffany, baby," she said, touching my cheek. "You look so thin. Are you eating?" I lied and said yes. She bought me a bag of groceries before she left. I cried in the bathroom for 20 minutes. After that, do you have that one person in your life whose opinion matters more than anyone else's? And seeing disappointment in their eyes just breaks you? Tell me about it in the comments, because I need to know. I'm not the only one who felt that shame. The turning point, month 5, February. February in Boston is brutal. Cold, gray, depressing. I was working the evening shift on a Tuesday scanning groceries on autopilot when this woman came through my line. She was older, maybe 55, 60. Well-dressed. Designer handbag. Expensive coat. The kind of woman who probably had a house in Back Bay and summered on the Cape. She was buying flowers and wine, fancy cheese, the kind of stuff I couldn't afford. I scanned everything with my usual fake smile. "Did you find everything okay today?" "I did, thank you," she said. Then she stopped and just stared at me. I looked up confused. "Is something wrong, ma'am?" "No, not at all. I'm sorry for staring. It's just, you have the most incredible bone structure. Have you ever modeled?" My heart stopped. Those words, those exact words, I hadn't heard in 8 years. I used to want to," I said quietly, bagging her groceries. "A long time ago." She pulled out a business card. "My name is Victoria Chen. I'm a scout for IMG models. I know this is random, and you probably think I'm crazy, but I'd love to talk to you about possibly signing with us. We're always looking for fresh faces, and you have a very unique look." I stared at the card like it was a winning lottery ticket. That was one of the biggest agencies in the world. They represented supermodels, celebrities, people who walked in Fashion Week. "I'm 30, I said. "Isn't that too old?" She laughed. "Honey, some of our most successful models didn't start until their 30s. Age is just a number. Presence is everything. And you have presence." I took the card with shaking hands. Have you ever had a moment where you felt like maybe, just maybe, the universe was giving you a second
Chance?
Comment below if you believe in divine timing, because this moment changed my entire life.
And
if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. The decision. I called Victoria the next day. We met at a coffee shop in the South End. She brought her portfolio, showed me campaigns she'd worked on, models she'd discovered. She explained that modeling had changed. Brands wanted real women, diverse faces, stories that resonated. "You're beautiful, Tiffany. But more than that, you have something in your eyes. Pain, strength, resilience. The camera will love that." I thought about Marcus telling me modeling was too risky. Too many creeps. Too much travel. How he'd made me feel like my dream was stupid and dangerous. I thought about Tanya, who'd always been jealous of the attention I got, who'd told me I wasn't special enough to make it. I thought about my mama's face when she saw me in that stop-and-shop polo. I thought about Jayden, who deserved a mother who showed him you can rise from the ashes. "What do I need to do?" I asked. Victoria smiled. "First, we get you in front of the camera. I want to do a test shoot, see how you move, how you
take direction.
If it goes well, we'll talk about signing you to the agency." 2 weeks later, I was standing in a photography studio in Cambridge, wearing clothes I'd never be able to afford, posing for a photographer who kept saying I was a natural. It felt like coming home. It felt like waking up after 8 years of sleep. It felt like finally being myself again. The first break. The test shoot went viral internally at IMG. Victoria called me 3 days later, breathless with excitement. "Tiffany, we want to sign you. And we already have a client interested. A major skincare brand is looking for models for their new Real Beauty campaign. They saw your photos and they're obsessed. The shoot is in
2 weeks.
You interested? I was working at Stop and Shop when she called. I was literally in the middle of scanning someone's frozen pizzas. Yes, I said. Yes, I'm interested. The campaign paid $5,000 for 2 days of work. $5,000. That was more than 2 months of my cashier salary. For 2 days. I gave my 2 weeks notice at Stop and Shop that same day. My manager thought I was crazy. You're leaving? For modeling? Tiffany, that's not stable. What about benefits? What about security? But I didn't care about stable anymore. Stable had gotten me a cheating husband and a sister who betrayed me. Stable had gotten me crying on my kitchen floor, wondering how I'd pay rent. I was done with stable. I wanted extraordinary. Would you have taken the risk? Would you have quit your steady job for a dream that might not work?
Ow.
Let me know in the comments because this decision terrified me, but I did it anyway. If you're living for this story, smash that like button and subscribe to see how high I climbed. The climb begins. That first campaign led to another, and another, and another. Within 3 months, I'd done shoots for Target, Sephora, and a major athletic wear brand. My face was on billboards in Boston, on bus stops, in magazines. People from my old life started reaching out. Coworkers from Stop and Shop sending me Instagram DMs like, "OMG, is that you?" Old friends from high school congratulating me. Even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly wanted to reconnect. But you know who didn't reach out? Marcus.
Tanya.
I heard through the grapevine that they'd broken up. Turns out when you build a relationship on lies and betrayal, it doesn't last. Shocking, right? Marcus was living in his mom's basement. Tanya had moved back in with our parents. Both of them were barely scraping by. Meanwhile, I was booking campaigns, walking in Boston Fashion Week, getting invited to events I used to only dream about. The money started rolling in. I moved out of that tiny Roxbury apartment and into a beautiful 2-bedroom in the South End. I enrolled Jayden in a better daycare, one with music classes and art programs. I bought myself new clothes, real furniture, food that wasn't ramen. I took my mama out to dinner at one of those fancy restaurants in the seaport. She cried when she saw me, told me how proud she was, how she always knew I had something special. "I'm sorry I ever doubted you, baby," she said. "You didn't doubt me, Mama. I doubted myself." The international call. In June, 7 months after that woman handed me her business card at Stop and Shop, Victoria called me with news that made my hands shake. "Tiffany, sit down. You're not going to believe this."
What?
"What is it?" "Chanel. Chanel wants you for their fall campaign. They're shooting in Paris next month. They saw your work and they want you specifically. This is huge. This is career-defining. This is..." I dropped the phone. Chanel.
Paris.
Words I never thought would be in the same sentence as my name. Have you ever gotten news so good you literally couldn't believe it was real?
That moment when
everything you've been working for finally pays off. Share your story in the comments, because I want to celebrate with you. And if you're invested in my journey, hit that like button and subscribe. You need to see where this goes. Reflection and power shift. That night, after I put Jayden to bed, I sat on my balcony overlooking the South End and thought about where I'd been 6 months ago. Crying on a kitchen floor. Eating ramen. Wondering if I'd ever be happy again.
And now,
I was going to Paris to shoot for Chanel. The girl who used to scan groceries was about to walk runways in Europe. The woman whose husband said she wasn't good enough was about to become the face of one of the most prestigious fashion houses in the world. I thought about Marcus and Tanya, struggling in their separate corners of Boston, probably regretting everything. And you know what? I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel hurt. I felt free. Because their betrayal didn't break me.
it rebuilt me.
It forced me to become the woman I was always meant to
be.
Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself. Closing hook for part 2. But this story isn't over yet. Not even close. Because what happened in Paris? What happened when I became an international model? When the money really started flowing and the life I'd always dreamed of became my reality? That's when things got really interesting. And that's when I met him, the man who would change everything all over again. Want part 3? Type continue and find out how I went from walking Chanel runways to living a life Marcus and Tanya could only dream of. If you're loving Tiffany's revenge glow-up, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling me what you would have done if you were Tiffany. I read every single one. Paris in July is something out of a dream. The kind of dream I used to have when I was scanning groceries at Stop and Shop, wondering if my life would ever be more than bills and heartbreak. But there I was, stepping off a plane at Charles de Gaulle Airport, with a driver holding a sign with my name on it, ready to take me to a luxury hotel in the 8th arrondissement.
Me.
Tiffany from Boston. The girl whose husband cheated on her with her own twin sister. The girl who was eating ramen 6 months ago so her son could have real food. I was in Paris. 4. Chanel. The shoot was scheduled for 3 days. They put me up at Le Bristol, this insane 5-star hotel with marble bathrooms bigger than my old apartment in Roxbury. I had a view of the Eiffel Tower from my room. I took about 100 pictures and sent them to my mama, who called me crying, saying she couldn't believe her baby girl was living like this. Neither could I, honestly. I kept waiting for someone to tell me there'd been a mistake, that they'd meant to book someone else, that I didn't belong here. But every time I had that thought, I'd look at myself in the mirror and remember what Victoria told me. You have presence. You belong anywhere you decide to be. The first day of the shoot was terrifying. I'd done campaigns before, sure, but this was Chanel. This was the big leagues. The photographer was this famous French guy named Laurent who'd shot everyone from Naomi Campbell to Cara Delevingne. The creative director was a woman named Isabelle who wore all black and had this intimidating energy that made me want to prove myself. The set was in this gorgeous old mansion in the Marais district, all high ceilings and chandeliers and windows that let in the most perfect golden light.
They had
a team of 20 people, stylists, makeup artists, assistants, lighting crew. All there for this campaign. All there. For me. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt completely out of your depth but you just had to fake it till you made it? Drop a comment if you know that feeling, because I was shaking inside, but I couldn't let them see it. And if you're loving this journey, hit that like button and subscribe. Tiffany's story is about to get even better. Laurent barely spoke English, but he didn't need to. He'd point, gesture, show me what he wanted with his
hands.
More fire in the eyes. He'd say through the translator, like you own the world, like you fear nothing. And you know what? After everything I'd been through with Marcus and Tanya, after being betrayed and broken and rebuilt, I did feel like I feared nothing. What else could the world throw at me that I hadn't already survived? So I gave him fire. I gave him strength. I gave him the rage and pain and power of a woman who'd lost everything and clawed her way back. And he loved it. Magnifique, he kept shouting. This is it. This is what we need. By the end of the first day, Isabelle pulled me aside and said, You're a natural. I don't know where you've been hiding, but the camera loves you. You might just be our next star. I floated back to my hotel that night. Literally floated. I called Jayden on FaceTime. He was staying with my mama while I was gone, and he was so excited to see the Eiffel Tower behind me. Mommy, you're in the Princess City, he said. And I thought, yeah, baby, mommy's in the Princess City.
And
she's finally becoming the queen she was meant to be. The second day of the shoot, something happened that I wasn't expecting. We were taking a break between setups, and I was sitting in the makeup chair getting a touch-up when this man walked onto set. Tall, maybe 6'2", with dark brown skin, a perfect fade, and a smile that could stop traffic. He was wearing a Tom Ford suit. Like it was made for him, which it probably was. Everyone on set seemed to know him. Isabel kissed both his
cheeks.
Laurent shook his hand. The assistants whispered and giggled. And then he looked at me. Really looked
At me.
like I was the only person in the room. You must be Tiffany, he said, walking over with his hand extended. His voice was deep, smooth, with just a hint of a British accent. I'm Dominic Laurent. I'm shooting the men's campaign next week, but I heard they'd found an incredible new face for fall, so I had to come see for myself. I shook his hand, trying not to look as flustered as I felt. Nice to meet you. I'm definitely new to all this, so I hope I'm living up to the hype.
He
Smiled, and I swear to God it felt like the temperature in the room went up 10 degrees. From what I've heard, you're exceeding it. Isabel doesn't give compliments lightly. If she says you're special, you're special.
We talked between takes.
I learned he was originally from London, but lived in New York now.
He'd been
modeling for 10 years, had walked for every major designer, done campaigns for Gucci, Versace, Dior.
He'd
also started his own sustainable fashion line 2 years ago, which was doing incredibly well. He was smart, successful, gorgeous, and somehow genuinely interested in talking to me.
Me.
The girl who 6 months ago was crying on her kitchen floor. We exchanged numbers before I left that day. He said he wanted to show me around Paris, take me to places tourists never see. I said yes before I could overthink it. Have you ever met someone and just knew they were going to change your life? Like the universe was putting them in your path for a reason? Let me know in the comments if you believe in that kind of connection. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you're invested in this story. You need to see where this goes. Dominic took me to dinner that night at this tiny bistro in Montmartre that didn't even have a sign outside.
You
had to know about it to find it. We ate steak frites and drank wine and talked for 4 hours straight. He asked about my life, really asked, and I found myself telling him everything. About Marcus, about Tanya, about working at Stop and Shop and feeling like my life was over. About Jayden and being a single mom and wondering if I'd ever be happy again. He listened. Really listened. Not like Marcus used to, where he'd just wait for me to stop talking so he could talk about himself. Dominic asked questions, held eye contact, made me feel like my story mattered. Then he told me his story. His parents had immigrated from Jamaica to London when he was 2.
They'd
worked 3 jobs between them to keep food on the table. He got scouted at 16 while working at a Foot Locker, and modeling became his way out, his way to give his family a better life. He'd built his fashion line because he wanted to create something that lasted, something beyond just being a pretty face in magazines.
I
learned a long time ago, he said, that beauty fades but legacy lasts. I want to leave something behind that matters. I could have listened to him talk all night. His passion, his drive, his kindness. It was everything Marcus wasn't. Everything I didn't know I needed until that moment. We walked along the Seine after dinner, the Eiffel Tower lit up and sparkling in the distance. It was one of those perfect moments you see in movies and think could never happen in real life. But it was happening.
To me.
Can I be honest with you?
Dominic said, stopping to look at me.
Please. I came to that set today because I heard about you. But after meeting you, after talking to you tonight, I realize I wasn't ready for you. You're not just beautiful, Tiffany. You're powerful. You've been through hell, and you're still standing, still shining.
That's rare.
That's special. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he could probably hear it. I don't feel powerful. Most days. I feel like I'm still figuring it all out. That's what makes you powerful, he said. You don't even realize how strong you are. He kissed me that night, right there on the bridge over the Seine, with the lights reflecting on the water and the city alive around us. And for the first time since Marcus destroyed me, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could trust someone again. Maybe not all men were like my ex-husband. Maybe some of them were like Dominic. Good. Genuine, real. That night, lying in my hotel bed, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with everything that had happened. 6 months ago, I was broke and broken. Now I was in Paris shooting for Chanel, and I just met a man who made me feel like I mattered. Like I was more than just the girl who got cheated on. Like I was someone worth knowing, worth loving, worth fighting for. If you've ever felt like giving up on love after someone hurt you, but then you met someone who restored your faith, tell me about it in the comments. And if this story is giving you hope, hit that like button and subscribe. There's so much more to come. The Chanel campaign dropped in September during Fashion Week. My face was everywhere. Billboards in Times Square, Piccadilly Circus in London, on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. Magazine spreads in Vogue. Harper's Bazaar, Elle. Instagram exploded. I went from 2,000 followers to 200,000 in 2 weeks. Brands started reaching out left and right. Victoria could barely keep up with the offers coming in. Dior wanted me for their spring campaign. Fenty Beauty wanted me as a face of their brand. Luxury fashion houses were sending me free clothes, jewelry, bags. My bank account had more zeros than I'd ever imagined possible. I was making in 1 month what I used to make in 2 years at Stop and Shop. Dominic and I were officially together by then. He flew to Boston to meet Jayden in August, and I was so nervous I thought I might throw up. What if Jayden didn't like him? What if he was weird around kids? But Dominic showed up with a toy fire truck and got down on the floor to play with my son like it was the most natural thing in the world. Jayden loved him instantly. Is he going to be my new daddy? Jayden whispered to
Me that night at bedtime.
I don't know, baby. But he's a good man. A really good man. Better than old daddy. So much better than old daddy. And he was. God, he was. Dominic treated me like a queen. He flew me to New York on weekends, took me to fashion shows and gallery openings and rooftop dinners.
He
introduced me to his family. His mom cried when she met me, said I was the most beautiful woman she'd ever seen, and she was so happy her son found someone like me. He met my mama, who pulled me aside and said, "Now that's a man, Tiffany. Don't let this one go." I wasn't planning to. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had it all. A career I loved. A man who loved me.
A
son who was thriving. Financial security I never thought possible. I'd gone from rock bottom to the top of the world in less than a year. Meanwhile, through the grapevine, I heard Marcus was still living in his mom's basement. Still unemployed. Still miserable. Tanya was working at a call center, barely making ends meet. Single and alone. They destroyed each other just like they'd tried to destroy me. Except I didn't stay destroyed. I rose. I flew. I became everything they said I couldn't be. Have you ever had a comeback so good that it felt like the ultimate revenge? Where you didn't even have to do anything except become your best self? Share your story below. And if Tiffany's glow up is inspiring you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're almost at the end and you won't believe how good this gets. By December, Dominic and I were inseparable. He asked me to move to New York to live with him in his penthouse in Tribeca. I was terrified to say yes. What if it didn't work out? What if I uprooted Jayden's life and then everything fell apart like it did with Marcus? But Dominic sat me down and looked me in the eyes and said, "Tiffany, I'm not Marcus. I'm not going anywhere. I love you. I love Jayden. I want to build a life with you. A real life. The kind you deserve."
So I said yes.
We moved to New York in January. Jayden started at an amazing private school in Manhattan. I kept booking campaigns, walking in Fashion Week, building my name in the industry. Dominic's fashion line exploded, and we started talking about collaborating on a collection together. Everything was perfect. Better than perfect. It was the life I used to dream about when I was scanning groceries, the life I thought I'd never have. One night in February, exactly 1 year after Victoria Chen handed me her business card at Stop and Shop, Dominic and I were having dinner at our apartment. Jayden was asleep. Candles were lit. Music was playing. Softly. And then Dominic got down on one knee. Tiffany, a year ago you were in a place where most people would have given up. But you didn't. You fought. You worked. You believed in yourself even when nobody else did. You became the most incredible woman I've ever known. I don't want to spend another day of my life without you. Will you marry me? I said yes through tears. Happy tears. The kind I didn't think I'd ever cry again after Marcus broke me. But here I was, crying happy tears with a man who loved me, respected me,
Supported me.
a man who saw me for who I really was and loved me even more because of it. We got married in June in a small ceremony in the Hamptons. My mama cried the whole time. Jayden was the ring bearer and took his job very seriously. Dominic's family flew in from London. My modeling friends came. Victoria was there. It was intimate, beautiful, perfect. Everything my first wedding wasn't. After the ceremony, during the reception, my mama pulled me aside. Baby, you did it. You survived the worst thing that could happen and you came out the other side shining. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of me too, Mama, I said.
And
I meant it. I was proud. Proud of the woman I'd become. Proud that I didn't let Marcus and Tanya's betrayal define me. Proud that I chose to rise instead of staying down. I heard later that Marcus saw one of my billboards in Boston and had a complete breakdown. Realized what he'd lost. Tried to reach out through mutual friends to apologize and explain. I blocked him before he could even try. Tanya apparently saw my wedding photos on Instagram. Yeah, I made sure they were public and deleted all her social media.
good.
Let her sit with what she did. Let her watch me live the life she tried to.
Destroy.
Because I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. And that, more than any revenge I could have planned, was the sweetest victory of all. Ready for the final part? Type continue to see how Tiffany's life became everything she ever dreamed of and more. If you're here for this incredible journey, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling me what part of Tiffany's story resonated with you the most. I love hearing from you all. 2 years after that wedding in the Hamptons, I'm sitting in my home office in our Tribeca penthouse, looking out at the Manhattan skyline, and I still have moments where I have to pinch myself. This is my life. This is really my life. The girl who used to scan groceries for minimum wage is now one of the highest paid Black models in the industry. The woman whose husband told her she wasn't good enough to model is now on the cover of VOGUE. The single mom who cried on her kitchen floor wondering how she'd pay rent now lives in a multi-million-dollar apartment with a man who treats her like royalty. Sometimes I think about that moment in Stop and Shop when Victoria Chen handed me her business card, and I wonder what would have happened if I'd been too scared to call her. What if I'd let fear win? What if I'd stayed in that grocery store, stayed small, stayed broken? I thank God every day that I didn't. Jayden is 5 now, thriving in his private school, taking piano lessons and playing soccer on the weekends.
He
Calls Dominic Dad without any prompting from us, and every time I hear it, my heart swells. Dominic adopted him legally last year, and we had a little celebration with just the 3 of us. Pizza, ice cream, and Jayden's favorite movie. I have the best dad in the whole world, Jayden said that night, hugging Dominic
tight.
I saw tears in Dominic's eyes, and I fell in love with him all over again. That's the kind of man he is.
The
Kind who chooses to love a child that isn't biologically his, like he's his own flesh and blood. The kind who shows up, who stays, who keeps his promises. Everything Marcus never was. My career has gone places I never imagined. After Chanel, the floodgates opened. I've walked in Paris Fashion Week, Milan, New York, London. I've been the face of campaigns for Lancôme, Prada, Valentino, Fendi.
I've
been in editorials for every major fashion magazine. My Instagram has over 2 million followers now, and brands pay me 6 figures just to post a photo. Dominic and I launched our collaborative sustainable fashion line. called Renaissance last year. The idea being that everyone deserves a second chance, a rebirth, a new beginning. The line focuses on affordable luxury made ethically, and it's doing better than we ever dreamed. We're opening our first standalone store in Soho next month. If you've ever built something from nothing, turned your pain into purpose, comment below and tell me about it. I want to celebrate you. And if this story has touched you in any way, hit that like button and subscribe. Sharing Tiffany's journey means the world to me. But you know what the craziest part of all this is? It's not the money, the fame, or even the career success.
It's the peace.
I wake up every morning next to a man who loves me deeply and shows it every single day. I go to work doing something I'm passionate about. I come home to my son who's happy and healthy and thriving.
I
have genuine friendships with people in the industry who support me and celebrate my wins. I have a relationship with my mama that's stronger than ever. I'm financially secure in a way that means I never have to worry about choosing between paying rent and buying groceries. And most importantly, I like who I am now.
I
love who I am. The woman looking back at me in the mirror is strong, confident, healed. She's not the broken girl Marcus left crying on that kitchen floor. She's a warrior who turned her betrayal into fuel and her pain into power. About 6 months ago, I was in Boston for a fashion event at the ICA. My mama came with me, and afterward, we decided to grab coffee at this little spot in Back Bay. As we were walking down Newbury Street, laughing about something Jayden had said that morning on FaceTime, I saw them, Marcus and Tanya, together,
standing
outside a Dunkin' Donuts, arguing about something. They looked rough. Marcus had gained weight, was wearing clothes that looked like they hadn't been washed in a week. Tanya's hair was a mess, her face looked tired and worn. They looked exactly like what they were, two people who destroyed something beautiful and were now living with the consequences. My first instinct was to turn around, walk the other way, avoid the confrontation. But then I thought, why?
Why?
Should I hide? Why should I feel uncomfortable? I'm not the one who should be ashamed. So I kept walking. My mama saw them too and squeezed my hand. You don't have to talk to them, baby, she whispered. I know, Mama, but I want to. When we got close enough, Marcus looked up and his face went completely white. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Tanya's mouth literally dropped open. I was wearing a Dior coat, Chanel bag, Louboutin heels, the kind of outfit that cost more than they probably made in 6 months combined. My mama was glowing with pride next to me. I looked like exactly what I was, a woman who'd won. Tiffany, Marcus stammered. We didn't expect to see you here. I'm in town for an event, I said calmly.
Coolly.
No anger in my voice. No pain. Just facts. How have you been? The question hung in the air like a challenge. How have you been since you destroyed your family for a woman who wasn't worth it?
How have
you been since you threw away a good wife for your wife's sister? How have you been since you lost everything? Tanya couldn't even look at me. She stared at the ground, her arms crossed like she was trying to make herself smaller. Marcus opened his mouth, but nothing came out. What could he possibly say? We're doing okay, he finally managed. Just getting by. Have you ever run into someone who wronged you after you've completely leveled up? That moment, where they see what they lost. Tell me about it in the comments because that feeling is indescribable.
And
if you're loving this finale, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're almost done, but you need to hear the
end.
That's good, I said.
And I meant it.
Not because I cared about their well-being, but because I genuinely didn't wish them harm. I didn't need to. They'd harmed themselves enough. I heard you're doing really well, Marcus said, and there was something in his voice, regret, maybe, or just the realization of everything he'd thrown
away. Saw you on a billboard.
In magazines. You look amazing. I always knew you could do it.
I
almost laughed. No, Marcus, you didn't. You told me modeling was too risky. You told me to give up my dreams. You made me feel like I wasn't good enough. So, let's not rewrite history now. His face flushed red. Tanya finally looked up, and for the first time since I'd caught them together, I saw something in her eyes. Remorse? Shame? Maybe. Too little too late. Tiffany, I'm sorry, Tanya said quietly. For what I did. For everything. I was messed up and jealous. And I made a horrible mistake. I looked at my twin sister, the person who used to know me better than anyone, and I felt nothing. No anger. No hatred. Not even pity. Just nothing. I forgive you, I said. And I did. Not for her sake, but for mine. Holding on to that anger, that hurt, that betrayal, it would only poison me. And I refused to let them poison me anymore. But that doesn't mean I want you in my life. You made your choice. Now live with it. My mama nodded approvingly next to me. We started to walk away, but Marcus called out. Tiffany, wait. I want you to know I regret it. Every day. Losing you, losing Jayden. It was the biggest mistake of my life. I turned back and looked at him, really looked at him. This man who I'd once loved, who I'd built a life with, who I'd thought was my forever. And all I felt was gratitude. Gratitude that he showed me who he really was. Gratitude that his betrayal forced me to find myself. Gratitude that he left, because if he hadn't, I'd still be that small, scared woman scanning groceries and dreaming of a life she was too afraid to chase. Marcus, losing me was the best thing that ever happened to you. Because now you know what you're capable of losing when you don't appreciate what you have. And maybe, just maybe, you'll treat the next woman better. But that's not my problem anymore. I have a husband who loves me, a son who's thriving, and a life that's more beautiful than I ever imagined. So thank you. Thank you for cheating on me. Thank you for breaking my heart. Because if you hadn't, I never would have become who I am today. And with that, my mama and I walked away. I didn't look back. Not once. Because there was nothing behind me worth seeing. Everything I needed, everything I wanted, everything I deserved was ahead of me. That night, back in New York, I told Dominic about running into them. He pulled me close and kissed my forehead.
How
Do you feel? He asked. Free, I said. I feel completely free. And I did. For the first time since that horrible day I caught them in my bedroom, I felt like that chapter was truly closed. They couldn't hurt me anymore. They couldn't take anything else from me. I'd taken back my power, my life, my happiness. And I was never giving it away again. If you've ever had closure with someone who hurt you, if you've ever walked away from toxicity and never looked back, I want to hear your story in the comments. Your strength inspires me. And if Tiffany's story inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they can rise from the ashes too. Today, as I'm writing this final chapter of my story, Jayden is playing with his toys in the living room. Dominic is in the kitchen making dinner, singing off-key to some song on the radio. Our dog, a golden retriever named Chance because everyone deserves one, is sleeping by the window. This is my life now.
simple moments that
Feel like everything. Loud laughter, inside jokes, family dinners, bedtime stories, weekend trips to the Hamptons, morning coffee while watching the sunrise over the city. This is what happiness looks like.
not
Perfect, but real. Not without challenges, but full of love. Not the fairy tale I thought I wanted when I was 22, but the life I needed at 32. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy getting here. There were days I wanted to give up, days I cried myself to sleep, days I wondered if the pain would ever stop.
but it did.
It stopped when I decided that Marcus and Tanya didn't get to write my ending. I did. And I chose to write a story about a woman who fell down, but got back up. Stronger. A woman who was betrayed, but refused to become bitter. A woman who lost everything and rebuilt her entire life from the ground up. If you're reading this and you're going through something similar, a betrayal, a divorce, a moment where you feel like your life is over, I need you to hear me. It's not over. This is just the beginning of your comeback story. The pain you're feeling right now, it's temporary. The strength you're building, that's permanent. Use it.
Channel it.
Let it fuel you to become the person you were always meant to
be.
Your ex doesn't get to define you. Your past doesn't get to limit you. Your mistakes don't get to destroy you.
You
are capable of more than you realize. You are stronger than you know. And you deserve a life that makes you excited to wake up in the morning. So go get it. Take the risk. Make the call. Say yes to the opportunity that scares you. Leave the relationship that's killing you. Chase the dream you've been putting off. Because one day, you're going to look back at this moment and realize it was the turning point. The day everything changed.
The
day you chose yourself. And trust me, when you get to where I am, happy, whole, free, you'll understand that. The betrayal wasn't the end of your story. It was just the beginning of the best chapter. I'm Tiffany. I'm a wife, a mother, a model, an entrepreneur, and a survivor. And this is my story. What's yours going to be? Thank you for following Tiffany's incredible journey from heartbreak to happiness. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you believe in second chances, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment sharing your own comeback story. I read every single one, and your strength inspires me. Remember, your story isn't over. The best chapter is still being written.
See you in the next video.